coming out next year in 2021. By the way, we don't know which ones are going to be for sure because of COVID, but what games can you cover to grow your live stream, to grow your YouTube channel, to help you go full-time as a gaming content creator? Things like Halo Infinite are coming up, Skull and Bones, Diablo Immortal, the remastered version of GTA 5, even Diablo 4, Anthem 2.0, Elder Scrolls 6, Wild Rift. We've got so many games to tell you about which ones are winners and which ones are losers based on historical data and our experience over the last 10 years covering games and growing YouTube channels and helping creators grow. We're going to help you narrow down which games are going to be the most beneficial for you, where there may be some gray space for you to punch through. Hopefully you can increase your odds to grow and go full time. Let's do it. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io?
Okay.
Ashroll, you have a tweet here from a genius named AWOL on your screen, of course. And this tweet is covering some upcoming games that creators can keep an eye on. Can you go through this list and let's discuss these PC and console titles?
Yeah, so we're going to start with PC. Obviously, we've been talking Cyberpunk a lot. So Cyberpunk Online is a bit on the radar. Will it be coming down the pipeline in 2021? I don't know, but can you cover it in 2021? I think so, yeah. Halo Infinite, we don't know for sure if it's happening in 2021. I think we can reasonably assume that it will maybe later in the year, but we technically don't know. However, I think it would still be good to cover leading up to its launch. There's already been great drama around it. There's already been lots of trending news. It's probably the most trending title, I would say, on this list. And you know that when it does come out, it's going to have longevity as a multiplayer title. That's what Halo does well. So, and it already has a really, really avid fan base that sticks with that game. So that one on this list seems like it has the most, in my opinion, like standout promise. Skull and Bones, I don't know a ton about. Well, I think you know more about that one than I do. Maybe give us a brief overview about that one.
Yeah, so Skull and Bones is this new game. So a lot of people are like, I haven't even heard of it. This is why you tune into Digital Drop Podcast, because I'm looking at this stuff all day. I look at Google Trends for fun and pleasure. That's how bad I am when it comes to numbers. Skull and Bones is this new IP coming out with Ubisoft. It's a new AAA game. The scale of this is going to be close to maybe something like The Division for Ubisoft. It's going to be a multiplayer pirate game. And this game is going to have multiple players on a ship doing hardcore naval multiplayer combat in an open, let's say, seas world. And this game has the potential to be a next big multiplayer game. As we already saw from Sea of Thieves, the pirate theme is big enough, of course, to generate enough popularity to have a game be relatively big in terms of size. However, Skull and Bones coming out for Ubisoft is going to be more hardcore. Yeah, here's the trailer. I'll pull it up for you guys. It's going to be more hardcore. It's going to be more multiplayer focused. And it's going to be something that I think could reach a wider audience who's actually looking to do some serious PvP, to climb the ladder, and to have some replayability in a PvP capacity. This was the E3 2018 trailer. And based on what we're seeing here, this is wildly ambitious. I mean, look at this thing, like gorgeous looking ships, cannon upgrades, you know, upgrading your character, having multiple people on the ship at the same time, doing PvP ladders, zone control, you name it, unlimited content because it's PvP. So this particular game looks like it could be really, really interesting if they pull it off and if they actually deliver on the vision that they're showing in this trailer. So this is sort of like a sleeper hit potentially that a lot of people don't even have their eyes on. So guys, keep an eye on this game, Skull and Bones. If it doesn't completely crash and burn, I mean, it looks gorgeous. It looks like it's going to have an insane amount of depth. And it looks like the kind of game that players could just watch you just go pillage the high seas for unlimited amounts of time. And it could be great potentially for a streaming game if the PvP is halfway decent there.
I think to look at a game like this, when you're assessing new games, don't just look at the game, look at who is developing it. So Ubisoft, what do we know about Ubisoft in the past? They've been doing heavy multiplayer games. They do obviously all the Assassin's Creeds, which normally do have pretty good staying power on Twitch, but they are single player games. And they have For Honor, which is their one multiplayer title that's maybe stuck around, but it's very, very niche. And then they're going to have this game. So Ubisoft as a development company has also made a lot of changes to their structure in 2020 and have tried to clean up their reputation and have tried to clean up their act, I guess, so to speak. So this game coming out, I think, is it going to be an interesting test to see if this is kind of like the new Ubisoft after all these changes. Can they make themselves a development company with a better reputation for better games, better stability, better multiplayer, and just better operation in general? I think for that reason, it could be cool to cover in advance or lead up to a game like this as features are leaked, talk about it on your channel, kind of build up an audience pre-launch for it. If it doesn't work out, though, you don't have a falling off point. You don't have a backup plan. Whereas a game like Elder Scrolls 6, you would have a backup plan if that game were to bomb. You could backstep back to Skyrim because that game's still popular. So if you that's something to look at. Look at the development of the game, look at the developer of the game, and cover that, and see if you have some longevity there. Another game here on the list, GTA 6. I'm going to defer to you on this one, Ross. I think you know a little bit more about what's going on next gen console for GTA 5. I think that's maybe more realistic than GTA 6. I think you could maybe cover like little tiny details of GTA 6 coming out, but if you're not playing GTA 5 on next gen, maybe you're missing something here, Ross.
Yeah, what they're doing with GTA 5, I don't necessarily know if I'd call it a remaster, although I guess that's essentially what it is they're going to be adding exclusive content to GTA 5 for next gen for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So they're going to have that going for them. We also already know that GTA 6 is in development. While we have no idea how far along they are, despite rumors, we have no idea anything about the game. I think there's probably going to be enough just within the GTA realm to continue to focus on GTA moving forward, whether it's, putting out 10 things we want for GTA 6 or 10 things we want for GTA 5 on next gen. There's so much content with GTA and Rockstar games in general that, I think GTA it's and just based on the number of sales that it has since it first came out, based on the number of concurrent viewers it has on every platform, the amount of content being covered on it, GTA is it's like your rock. If you can't find anything else to cover, nothing else intrigues you, you can always revert back to GTA, and it's gonna be that way for several years to come.
Question here in chat from Rig Pig. I need to address this. So he says, do you really think Elder Scrolls will come out in 2021? This is a huge mistake that people make when they're thinking about what games to cover coming up. The game doesn't need to come out for you to cover it. In fact, in most cases, it's better that the game doesn't even exist for you to cover it and to get views off of it. So games like Elder Scrolls 6 or GTA 6 or Cyberpunk Online or Anthem 2.0 or Diablo 4 or any of these games, you're actually going to get more views and more new subscribers and more new audience off of these titles covering what they could be, covering what could happen in the future, covering what the game might be like, speculating about it, taking every shred of news about what may come up, talking about what you want it to be, etc., through your content, through your YouTube videos. That is actually often far more exciting than the actual game itself when it actually releases and hits the market. So that's what we're talking about. You can cover games that won't come out for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, maybe past 2021, in 2021, and build an audience there. I saw that in multiple cases for people covering Cyberpunk 2077 way ahead of the launch of that game, and that ended up growing their YouTube channels to where they're getting hundreds of thousands or millions of views per month right now that Cyberpunk 2077 actually launched. And so this is something that we've seen over and over and over again. I see what parents doing is pulling up the classic example we always bring up of Typical Gamer, one of the biggest tubers out there that did this, but he's at 10 million subscribers, and he did exactly this with GTA 5 before GTA 5 came out. So covering games that don't exist yet on your channel is a viable strategy, and it's a strategy that will give you unlimited content for the future. Ross, it appears that you have something genius to say.
No, it's more of a question, which can be construed for genius because it's me talking. Does the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 potentially being, and we don't know yet, an exclusive game whenever it comes out to Xbox, does that weigh at all in what you're going to move forward in covering? Like if you chose to start covering that now.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have a lot to say about that one. If it is exclusive, and I know this is a huge topic, and this was like a trending topic in gaming for a while when it came out. You know, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls series, this 6 coming out. Everyone's looking at that and wondering what is going to be the modding ability of that game, because that is how that is all that Skyrim lives on, is modding. And that's why it's so relevant today. And with Elder Scrolls 6, Bethesda is upgrading their creation kit engine, which means modders will be able to do more, technically speaking, and all the stuff that they're used to dealing with now will be upgraded and hopefully fixed. It'll be a new engine to tinker with, or they're hoping. If it's an exclusive Xbox launch, all of that goes out the window.
Really?
And
Okay.
Bethesda is literally throwing away the biggest reason why they ever had any success with the game franchise to begin with. And if they do that, they are shooting themselves not just in one foot, but in both foot and in both eyes, because it would be it would just be a huge misstep. Now, if they stagger the launch and they do an Xbox launch and then they wait like 3 months and then they bring it to PC and everything else, then maybe that's okay. Maybe we're okay with that. Like then you can you can release part of the creation kit, the updated version, for modders out there as well. But if you don't hit the PC gaming community with this title, you're not hitting like 90% of your audience with the game. And I think that would be a huge misstep for their company.
I think they'd hit PC, being Microsoft and all. And by the way, yeah, and by the way, I don't think Microsoft's not this stupid to make it exclusive. I think the best case scenario is literally exactly what you said. It releases on Xbox exclusively for like a month or something like that before it continues to roll out. But good answer to the question. Thank you.
I don't think that's likely for Elder Scrolls 6. So for that game, I think they would release on Xbox and PC simultaneously. They'll put it on Xbox Game Pass, and then they'll get people to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass, and they'll tell you, well, if you want to play this game on your Xbox and your PC, and if you want to play it on your phone at any time, it'll be on the cloud as well. Subscribe to Xbox Game Pass today. That's what they're going to do. And then they're going to get subscription revenue, which is going to pay them a lot more money long term than just selling that game to people. So I think it would release on mobile, console, and PC simultaneously through a subscription service. And they'll probably give you bonus features if you do the subscription service. That's the smart business move, and that will allow the PC community to thrive, to mod the game as they see fit. And it also allows Microsoft to double down on the reason why they bought that company, right? Which is to have games in their library of Xbox Game Pass games moving forward. Let's talk about the other games that we had here on this list, though, as well. There were other titles, too. We've talked about Halo Infinite in the past. Obviously, the initial trailer and reception to Halo Infinite was absolutely horrible. And we've seen the majority of, not the majority, I think that's an exaggeration, but we've seen a lot of the senior development personnel that were behind what you see on the screen right now. This, we'll call it a gameplay trailer, leave the company. And so now they're kind of leaderless, or a lot of the leadership that was there a while ago is gone. I mean, what are the prospects that this game even comes out at all? And if it does, that it's actually good? Perrin, what do you think?
I think we're in like a post Cyberpunk 2077 landscape now, where every publisher developer is looking at that and saying, that's a cautionary tale for us. How much can they follow that tale versus their investors and company leadership? That's a different question. I do think with Halo Infinite, they were scared after this initial release, and they did make the correct steps to pull it back and polish it. I do think in 2021, we'll get something that is more highly polished, that will be highly playable. I think this will be like one of the only titles that is going to actually release in 2021 that will be streamable, coverable at a release point and post that release point because of the multiplayer. It will, however, rely on how good is the multiplayer going to be. Is it going to be better than any other average Halo? Are we just relying completely on nostalgia, or is there something new here? Because if you look at the trend for shooters, especially as live streaming game content, it has all moved to Battle Royale. Even Call of Duty moved to Battle Royale. The only other games that aren't Battle Royale are your CSGO style, Valorant style shooters. I don't think there's room for this old type of team shooter anymore on Twitch. I don't think you're going to get much of an audience for it. So unless they do something innovative here, and I don't know what they have planned for it, specifically in the multiplayer, if anything new, But if they don't have anything new planned for it, I think you see a huge growth in audience. I think you have a minor niche community of nostalgic Halo fans who come to this title and will watch live stream content, which actually could be a good spot for growth. If it is niche and most of the big creators leave this space, leave the Halo space, that could be a prime opportunity for you as a creator to grow.
Yeah, I actually think what we know about multiplayer right now is very, very little. But from what they've actually talked about, it's going to be a lot of nostalgia. They're going to go back to what they originally did that made Halo multiplayer so successful. But then they're also going to be incorporating a lot of new things. I think, to answer kind of AWOL's question, I think that lesson learned from Cyberpunk will have an effect on Halo Infinite if they're given the amount of time that's needed. Based on what we see, they needed at least another year heading into this. It sounds like they're going to get probably another, 15, 16 months out of the original release date on it. I think single player could release next year. I still think it's going to be a while before we see multiplayer. I think multiplayer could be 6 months to a year after the initial release of the Halo campaign.
Well, let me talk about another game that's not on your radar, everybody. We talked about Skull and Bones a moment ago. What about Anthem 2.0? So the biggest game failure, maybe in recent memory, and then, well, I guess Cyberpunk. I don't feel like Cyberpunk failed as hard because Cyberpunk's actually a good game underneath all that garbage. Whereas Anthem was not a good game under all that garbage. It just had fun action gameplay, which wore off very quickly. So BioWare has been basically completely redeveloping Anthem from scratch. They're completely redoing the loot systems. They're building entirely new areas. They're putting in basically a whole new concept almost in terms of what Anthem is moving forward. And they're going to re-release that bad boy at some point. And so I think that, and they're also releasing information, screenshots, concept art. They're showing the new UI. They're completely overhauling that game, hoping it's going to be the next No Man's Sky. Or the next Final Fantasy, whatever. And so Anthem 2.0 could be a sleeper hit. Everybody wants that game to be great because flying around and killing stuff as one of those Iron Man robots was super fun. Just everything other than that was terrible. And so that's what they're working on right now, is fixing all the terrible things. So I think that is a title to keep an eye on. It could, if it is actually good, it won't be as successful as Destiny 2. It won't be as successful as Destiny 2 or the Destiny franchise, but it could be somewhere in terms of popularity, somewhere between Warframe and Destiny, and fall into that number 2 slot in that looter shooter multiplayer game category. However, given BioWare's history, given BioWare's turnover in terms of their leadership, I would say we have a less than 50% probability that they'll actually pull it off at this point. So Ross is shaking his head.
Yeah.
He's like, AWOL, what the hell are you talking about? They have no chance. What do you think about this?
I agree. First of all, I'm glad you mentioned about leadership, because I was going to say, if we have to use that example for Microsoft with the studio heads leaving them, then we have to talk about Casey Hudson and Mark Dara leaving BioWare. I think it was earlier this month, actually. So that's a huge loss in leadership. What separates Anthem from what No Man's Sky did is immediately after No Man's Sky launched, which we can all agree was just a total disaster, they immediately started releasing new content, like within months and months and months, and build it up. We're going to be past 2 years since Anthem came out, that the relaunch is going to happen. Even if it's successful, I don't know. I personally feel like I hope it's good, but I feel like it's just going to be way too little, way too late. I think after 2 years of no updated content, of knowing what's happening behind the scenes at BioWare, I think it's a dead game, unfortunately.
Geez, dead game is the prediction there. Well, speaking of games that are not dead, and speaking of how the industry is moving, mobile gaming is the future. Mobile games are starting to now be the top games on YouTube, and they're eventually going to completely take over YouTube within the next 5 to 10 years. And so what are those upcoming mobile games that we can talk about and tell our audience about? That's where the best sponsorship opportunities are. That's where all the revenue is going in the creator industry. And for folks that want to go full time, probably your fastest path in many cases to going full time as a creator is actually to cover mobile games. So many streamers and creators out there don't want to do it, and that's their loss, because guess what they're going to be doing in 5 to 10 years? Playing mobile games, because that's what all the companies are moving toward. They're moving away from PC and console, and they're moving toward mobile games. That's the future. So what are the big upcoming titles? We talked about this yesterday briefly, but Dusky Gaming. gave us a curated list here. Let's run through this. Perrin, what do you think of these titles?
Yeah, so I actually think there's a lot more value in terms of covering as a creator on this list than the list we just looked at. Wild Rift, Wild Rift is cool because, and I'll bring up some gameplay footage here of Wild Rift. So this is like basically League of Legends mobile. This one has been good because it's not out in the US yet, but it has been released in Eastern Asian countries. So you can kind of assess how well it's done there to how well it might do in the US. And so far, it has been a title for creators to grow on. It hasn't been as crazy successful as Mobile Legends, maybe, but it has made the top player Mobile Legends very nervous, kind of stealing their audience base, stealing their gamers away, and it totally has done that. It just looks like a cleaner, more polished mobile game. It's like playing League of Legends on your phone. I think this title will be super good, especially in spring, this next spring when it's supposed to release in the US. I think you'll see lots of creators grow on this title and be able to just grind it out on this game and grow an audience. I think this one is a solid pick for the list. I will actually be covering it myself at some point as well. Diablo Immortal is a huge question mark, but I'd love to see it on the list. And that's also why it could be good to cover it, because it is a huge question mark. You know, Diablo Immortal, this comes from a huge shift in one of our favorite, or maybe prior favorite developers. Blizzard Entertainment is entering the mobile market. And everybody wants to know whether or not this is going to be a good move for them. Are they going to pull it off or not? You can really ride that wave as a creator and bank yourself on that make or break point. But if they do break it and they do kind of fail with it, you're going to be left with a lot less of an audience because no one's going to care about the game or play it at that point. If they're not able to capture that Asian market, then they're probably kind of done. Pokemon Unite, I don't know anything about, but it's got the word Pokemon in it. I know Pokemon's an Evertrend, so that one normally pumps it back up on the list a good bit. And I don't know anything about Catalyst Black.
I can talk about Catalyst Black a little bit. So Catalyst Black, so there's the mobile esports scene, and with mobile esports, Vainglory was the big mobile esport for a long time. I don't know if you guys have heard of Vainglory or seen it peripherally, but it was the big mobile gaming esport. It was a MOBA. They put a ton of money into it. A lot of people feel that they mishandled the franchise with that game. That company that owned Vainglory shut Vainglory down eventually. Kind of a Heroes of the Storm type of story with that game, where it was moderately successful. The esports, they tried super hard, and it just never quite got there. That company stopped doing that, and now they're doing Catalyst Black. This is a game to keep your eye on, but I do have some concerns. So my main concern with this game, it's a drop-in, drop-out hybrid shooter game. So what do I mean by that? It's kind of MOBA-ish, and it's also got some battle royale elements where you can kind of drop into random games and then go in there and fight. And it's also got point control as well. And it's got this sort of Overwatch / fantasy type of feel, as you can see here. So it's a hybrid of a million different genres all at the same time with really interesting gameplay. I'm currently in the technical alpha for this one. It's very, very fun. My primary concern with this game, and many, many other games out there that are like this, just because a game is cool, and Super Evil Megacorp is the company that makes this game. Just because a game is cool, the gameplay looks interesting, they're doing something different, doesn't mean it's actually going to be good for creators. Because you need the company that is making the game or publishing the game you're covering to have a massive marketing budget. And the hype and the buzz and the awareness of this game right now, and it's currently in a technical alpha, is next to nothing. And so when you see a game pre-launch, creators, take note of this. You only learned one thing here today, take note of this. If pre-launch, you're taking a look at a game and there's almost no buzz about it, there's almost no search for it, there's almost no interest in it, that is because that company is not planning on marketing that game as hard as you need them to as a creator so that you can grow off of the game. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here with Catalyst Black. It's probably going to be a masterpiece of a game based on what I'm playing so far. It's amazing, but there's no buzz for it. So my guess is they just have a teeny tiny budget to market this game. It's going to come out, nobody's going to hear about it, and then it's going to die. So if they end up getting an investor, if they end up getting some cash in the bank, or if they end up changing their mind in terms of the marketing strategy, Catalyst Black could be a sleeper hit on mobile. So keep a close eye on this one. Very cool game, very cool developer, but very questionable finances from a marketing perspective. That's my take on that one. Once again, you guys tune in here so you can hear about stuff you didn't already know. So I think Catalyst Black is one of those titles. But I'm also seeing Apex Legends Mobile on here. That looks interesting.
Does it?
Yeah, I don't know anything about Apex Legends. I know it's a popular game. I know it's I actually know some of the voice actors. Yeah, I mean it's going to be like, I would assume it's going to be like another PUBG mobile type game, which obviously
That's
seen a lot of we've seen a lot of success around PUBG mobile. I think it's going to be hard to match that, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on moving forward. Question I have for you guys is, what mobile games that are out there currently do you think will continue to succeed next year or completely drop off?
Yeah, so really quick, just a quick note on Apex Legends Mobile. They're planning on releasing it in fiscal year 2022, which is technically here in 2021. So likely it's going to be like an Apex Legends Lite on mobile. Yeah, that was it. So you're asking which mobile games are going to drop off this next year versus grow? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Which ones are going to drop off, and are there any that are out there now that are just going to continue to trend upwards?
Yeah, so as far as mobile games are concerned, there's the big ones, and then there's nothing else, basically. So, and the big ones have always been the big ones, and they'll never go away. They just slowly fade over time. So mobile gaming is not a space that has big shakers and movers, generally speaking. You're gonna have whatever games are at the top of mobile gaming. They are and Parents got some of them pulled up on the screen here. They stay at the top and they don't move ever. PUBG Mobile will be at the top for years. Free Fire will be at the top for years. Mobile Legends will be at the top for years. Arena of Valor, same thing, etc. And also on YouTube, Supercell titles like Brawl Stars, like Clash of Clans, those types of games will be at the top of YouTube for years, because they've built an incredible business, because they built an incredible marketing engine where they pump millions of dollars into marketing into these games each month, and they get more than that in millions back each month in return. And so that's why mobile games are so interesting, is if you can end up covering a mobile game that's sustainable and is big today, it will probably stay big for 5 or more years because it's so financially viable. That's why mobile games are more interesting than PC and console games in a lot of cases, is they're actually more stable in terms of the audience and the marketing, because they make more money. Mobile gaming makes way more money than PC and console titles. And so I think these top games you see on Facebook Gaming, they're all going to stay here. None of them are going to move. You might see Wild Rift slide into the top here on Facebook Gaming. As far as YouTube is concerned, whatever the big popular Blizzard games are, like Diablo Immortal or any Supercell games that come out, could break through on YouTube. Other than that, mobile gaming is super stable. The ones you see at the top are the ones at the top. There is no sudden decline. The only time a mobile game suddenly declines, Ross, is if they run out of money. Ooh. If the game stops making money, then it suddenly declines, because mobile games' popularity is completely propped up on the millions they dump into influencer marketing, streamer marketing, YouTuber marketing, and direct advertising, which happens daily forever. With PC and console games like Cyberpunk 2077, they usually launch the game real big with a bunch of money up front, and then they don't really have any marketing after that until they have a DLC to sell. Mobile games are completely different. They launch the game, and then they drop millions every month into infinity if the game makes a ton of cash. That makes mobile games even better for you guys, creators. You can build a channel around a mobile game and be like, cool, I'm going to sit on this for 3 years, 5 years, potentially, because it's just going to be a cash cow forever. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Speaking of making a lot of sense, Ross, there's some things you say in on our episodes all the time that makes a lot of sense that has to do with streaming on multiple platforms or something. What is it that you say?
Yeah, I'd say stop focusing on streaming on one platform, AWOL, and start streaming on all of them. Start streaming on Facebook Gaming, start streaming on Twitch, start streaming on YouTube, Trovo, DLive, Twitter. Why not? And you can all do that with Restream.io. I dropped the code into the comments right now. If you're watching after the fact, you can find it in the description. Stream on every platform. Figure out which one works for you. Stop trying to grow on one when you can start growing on all of them with just a click of a button.
That's a great point. Question here from RigPig in chat. AWOL says having different YouTube channels for clips, live, etc. Do you mean having a different YouTube channel or different playlists within a channel? So when you're looking at end game as a creator, you want to have a different channel for the different types of content that you're releasing. So optimally, you would have a YouTube channel for your edited videos, a separate entire channel for live streams, and then a separate entire channel just for clips, having a total of 3 channels, not splitting them up by playlists. Playlists are kind of irrelevant at this point. They're somewhat helpful for getting you more viewers and breaking things up, but they don't do that much. So making entirely different channels can help you diversify on YouTube and can help you split up that audience appropriately. Any final thoughts from the panel here in terms of top games for next year to cover? Perrin, I feel like you could wrap it up real nice for everybody.
Put a bow on it.
I have to just look at what's going to come out in 2021, because honestly, I don't see a lot that's going to be super exciting. And so much of it we don't even know, because we're still in this like black pandemic zone where game releases are just really, really shaky and uncertain. So use that uncertainty and don't just be planning for 1 year in advance. Plan for multiple years in advance. Find something that really grabs your interest, that fits these different criteria that we use to assess these titles we talked about today, and cover something in the lead up in advance of a trend and see what kind of audience you can gain from something like that. And then the second thing is, if you're ever unsure, it's always great to swap to mobile, because life is good on mobile gaming as a creator. So